أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى عترة الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to our new series Bringing It Home Dua Ahad. And we are doing this in honor of our 11th Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, whose shahada we will be commemorating in a few days' time, and then his wiladat in inshallah a month after that. So in between, from now till to the shahada and then to the wiladat, every Monday we will be inshallah releasing another aspect of Dua Ahad for us to look at and reflect on over the week as we recite Dua Ahad, inshallah, for the whole month and a few more days to make it 40 days, so that we're then following the hadith of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, which I will mention soon, inshallah. The reason why I have chosen to look at Dua Ahad in honor of our 11th Imam is because he was preparing the Shia to be in a time when the Imam would be in Ghaiba. He knew that his son would be in Ghaiba, starting off with the minor Ghaiba and then the major Ghaiba, the occultation. And so the Imam would not be present physically in front of the people, and he was preparing the Shias for this. And so in honor of him, inshallah, we will look at Dua Ahad in order to prepare ourselves for our Imam who is in Ghaiba, and inshallah through this then hasten his reappearance, inshallah. So let us start looking at Dua Ahad. First of all, it is a dua which, as the name says, is an allegiance to our Imam. And it has been narrated from our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, narrated by Sayyid Ibn Tawus in his Misbah al-Zahir and by Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi in his Mafatul Jinan. So it is very, very authentic. In fact, we have a beautiful hadith from Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, our sixth Imam, who says that the one who recites this supplication for 40 mornings, and it is recommended to recite this between Fajr and sunrise, it is said that he will be accounted amongst the helpers of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Farajahum. And if he happens to die before the appearance of the Imam Ajalallah Farajahum, Allah will raise him up from his grave so that he may assist the Holy Imam Ajalallah Farajahum. For every word that he recites in this supplication, Allah will grant him 1,000 good deeds and will erase from his scroll of deeds 1,000 sins. So we're told by Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam that if we recite this supplication, this Dua Ahad, for 40 mornings, and it doesn't matter whether if we're praying or not praying, if we are in the state of haze and not praying, we can still get up and recite this dua. And now that the days are shorter, Fajr is much later on, so it's much easier to then sort of stay awake after Fajr and actually recite this dua. And if we can recite this with understanding and with presence of heart and mind, then inshallah we will do it for 40 days, and inshallah then we will be amongst the helpers of the Imam. And if we happen to die before the Imam comes, then we will be raised up from our graves to assist the Imam. And in the meantime, by reciting this supplication, we will be granted 1,000 good deeds, and for every word of this supplication, and 1,000 sins will be erased from our scroll of deeds, inshallah. So in summary, just very, very quickly, just summarizing this dua, the reciter, after acknowledging and praising Allah, pledges their allegiance to the Imam Ajalallah Farajahu and renews their covenant with him. And we are also, once we have done all we can by pledging our allegiance, then we ask Allah's help, because we can't do anything without His help. And we beseech Allah to include us amongst the helpers and aids of the Imam Ajalallah Farajahum, and to grant us the opportunity to attain martyrdom in His presence. We also request Allah that should we die before the reappearance of the Imam Ajalallah Farajahum, Allah should raise us from our graves so that we may assist the Imam in his mission. And we also appeal to Allah to grant us the honor of seeing the Imam. We also acknowledge the difficulties that the nation will go through during the Ghaiba of the Imam, and these difficulties can only be solved by his reappearance. And the believers see this happening very, very soon, while others deem it to be very distant. So this is, in a way, helps us to acknowledge and know what to expect in the ghaiba of the Imam, and the fact that he will come as our savior and make the earth function in the way that it was meant to. So let's look at this concept of submitting to the Imam through this dua. We have from Imam Baqir alayhi salam, our fifth Imam, that unless Allah purifies the heart of a servant, he cannot love us, nor can he accept our mastership. And Allah does not purify his heart till he does not submit to us and is not in a state of submission towards us. So if you look at this hadith, it actually says that Allah purifies the heart of someone unless Allah purifies our heart, we cannot actually love and accept the Imam. And Allah doesn't purify our heart until we've actually submitted to the Imam. So it's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? So it's that concept of, what do we need to do, and how do we do it, and where does Allah come into this? So it's literally us trying to sort of submit to the Imam as much as is possible by us, and through that then our hearts will be purified, and through the purifications of our heart we will be able to love and accept his mastership, and therefore be able to submit to him even more. If I can give you an example here, from the Ahlul Bayt, it was only when they kept away from sin through their own choices, through their own willpower, through their own decisions, then that Allah purified them even more and made them masoom. So now they do not commit sin even by forgetfulness or by mistake. And again, another example from our own lives. It is only when we get to a certain amount of knowledge will Allah put the knowledge in our hearts. And when Allah puts the knowledge in our hearts, then we get even more knowledge and we understand things even more. So it's literally, we have to take the first step, and then Allah takes the 10 steps, so it does more for us, and then we're able to, then when we're taking that first step, even next time after Allah's sort of done his bit, then we understand it even more. So here we have to submit to the Imam first, and then through that our hearts will purify a little bit, and Allah will purify it even more, and therefore we can submit to him even more. Let me explain it through another hadith. This hadith is from Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, our sixth Imam, where he says, you cannot become from the virtuous ones until you have recognition. You will not have recognition until you have affirmed. You have not affirmed until you submit. Okay? So if you look at this, literally what we're told is submission comes, and then affirmation, then recognition, then you become virtuous. Okay? Now, this order doesn't usually make sense. Usually we're told you recognize, then you affirm, then you submit, and then you become virtuous. So, for example, we need to understand Allah, recognize him through his signs, and then we affirm that he that he is the one God, and then we submit to him, and then we become virtuous. But the hadith of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam starts off with submission first, and then affirmation, then recognition, and then becoming virtuous. This is because here Imam is talking about the submission to the Aima, to not to Allah but to the Aima. When we have actually recognized, affirmed, and submitted to Allah and become of the virtuous, then we can only then are we able to submit to the Imam. And when we submit to him, then we can actually understand and have that affirmation of him being the Hujjah of Allah on the earth. And then we can truly recognize him and actually get the marifah of him. And through his marifah, then we can emulate him and become of the virtuous. So usually when we recognize through using our minds and affirm and then submit through our hearts and become virtuous, and this is when we're looking at Allah. But here we're looking at the Aima, and here we need to submit to them first and then affirm, because of their affirmation is through our understanding of Allah being so merciful and so loving that he has sent the Aima to us in order to guide us. And then through that, we will actually recognize who the Aima are, who our Imam is, who the Hujjah of Allah is, and understand him and have marifah of him greater, so that we can actually emulate him and become of the virtuous. How do we bring this home practically? I think from today onwards, if we can set ourselves a challenge of reciting Dua Had for 40 mornings, so that the hadith of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam comes true for us, where we then actually not only submit to him, but will actually be part of his army, be actually part of his mission, inshallah, and therefore then we will be able to become the virtuous one, so we actually deserve to be on his side. In order to submit to the Imam through this dua, we need to understand this dua. So I urge all of you to listen to the rest of these talks. Again, they will be coming out every Monday, inshallah, up to the wiladat of the 11th Imam, Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam. Please join me and listen to these talks in order to understand Dua Had a little bit more deeper, so that we can actually recite it for the 40 days, 40 mornings, with understanding and not just as a tick box exercise, inshallah. Please join me next Monday on when I look at Dua Had in a little bit more detail in the next part of it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.